And we know in California that there could be 500,000 homeless youth on any given night on the street, and that is shameful, I think, for the state of California, being the largest state in the country. So the mission of the California Coalition for Youth is to improve and empower the lives of California's youth, ages 12 to 24. So we work with disconnected youth or vulnerable population young people. So we're talking about youth who are either in the juvenile justice system, who are homeless, who've been in the foster care system. So basically young people who are disconnected from services or from family or community. We have two primary programs: the California Youth Crisis Line, which is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week program that provides resources, referrals, and crisis intervention to young people and their families that call. And then we also have an advocacy program where we train young people to be advocates personally on their own community and then at the statewide level. And so we train those young people to be good advocates, bring them up to Sacramento, to the Capitol, so that they can talk to legislators and other policymakers about the ways legislation would impact their life. When you look at the whole picture of what a young person needs to be successful in their lives, they need family support, and it doesn't have to be traditional family, but just family support, community support, education, employment. What it really comes down to is support.
I feel that if we can connect youth with resources that are in their local area and make that connection even over the phone, even if it's for 20 minutes, to say that you are on purpose, that you do matter, and that it's okay to feel scared if you're not sure where you're going to go for that night. You know, we want to work to make sure that you find a place. Like, I've talked to a woman that was 17, she was homeless for 5 years, and she was homeless for that time with her boyfriend, and she was looking for a shelter, and so we can patch her through to a homeless shelter right away. And so I got her to talk to a homeless shelter and say, you know, what are the requirements? How do we get in? And she was able to do that. You know, I can hear the freeway noises in the background. Like, you can tell she's obviously calling from a payphone, and it's an urgent situation. So it's those callers that we know that we're really serving and helping.
For our organization, one of the biggest challenges in serving and advocating on behalf of young people is that we're a statewide organization. So we are not rooted in communities to really know what's going on directly in those communities. So every community has different sorts of challenges for young people. So young people in Fresno, their challenges are very different than young people in San Francisco, which are very different than young people in LA. So our challenge is really staying connected to all those young people throughout the state. And one of the ways we do that is through the young people on our board of directors, who are kind of our advisors, our youth advisors, so to speak, to tell us what's going on in their communities. Then I think for young people, some of the biggest hurdles that they're facing on a day-to-day basis is a lack of work opportunities, a lack of quality education. Those two go so hand in hand. And then simply just a lack of a safe place to go.
If I could create my own program, I would create a program that is one of the easiest and most accessible program. It would be almost like Ram Dass style, where it would just be giving the food just because that person is hungry, and not, okay, you have to be this age, you have to have identification, you know, and not build up all these barriers and make assumptions about that person. I would build some kind of an emergency response system, say, that includes just really listening to that person face to face, because I think that the crisis line is great, and I think that it definitely is needed. I think that sometimes people just miss that face-to-face connection.
A few nights ago, I was here at work and I was working a little late. And we're not a direct service organization, so people don't typically walk into our office. And one of the crisis counselors came into my office and said, there's a young woman in the office that needs to use the restroom. Is that okay? And I was like, sure, of course. And so she went to the restroom, and I walked out to check on her to see if she needed anything else. And I said, hey, you know, how did you find us? She was like, well, I just saw youth in your title, and I thought maybe you'd be friendly enough to let me use the restroom. So I asked this young woman if there was anything I could help her with, and she asked about the crisis line and if there was any help she could get through it. And I said, well, strangely enough, even though you're standing here where our crisis line is, I can't really help you, but but what do you need? And so she said, well, I'm 16 and I'm pregnant and I'm homeless. We looked up a couple of resources and helped her figure out where she was going. One of the things that our crisis line doesn't give us access to is the human on the other side of the phone. And so when she walked in here, I think she kind of put a human face on it for a couple of people that were here in the office. But it was frustrating for me not to be able to really provide her what she needed. But she's still, I mean, in some ways kind of sits with me every day in the office now. I can kind of picture her, and I think about her when I'm doing my work.